the mentality there was that these younger girls, especially those who brought in more friends, or the mentality was that they were not victims per se, but they were co-conspirators, which is like, it sounds mind-blowing to me because these were minors, like they're manipulated by someone who could be their grandfather.
Yeah, and there was a recording of one of the like when one of the girls were at the police station, and she explains, yeah, like I brought this many girls or whatever Jeffrey Epstein, and the police officer goes, okay, well now you just admitted to being an accessory to a crime, without acknowledging the fact that she was sexually abused too, like she is a victim too, and they kind of made her the criminal, and that's the thing about the justice system, like especially with this case, is that they made her the kind of made her the criminal, and then you have a guy like Jeffrey Epstein who's actually the criminal who only spends 13 months in jail.
Yeah.
It's like there's a disconnect there.
Yeah, and just to speak of Jeffrey's wealth and influence, like when the authorities were investigating him, he would basically assemble a team of private investigators to dig dirt on the girls who accused him and on the police and the prosecutors on the case. So, and his team was composed of many powerful lawyers, including Alan Dershowitz and Kenneth Starr. We talked, like before the episode, we are discussing a bit about Alan Dershowitz and the sort of cases that he does as a lawyer.
And Ken Starr, I believe he's a lawyer that helped impeach Bill Clinton.
Yeah, and even Dershowitz was also involved in the Clinton impeachment, but he was also involved, as you said, in the OJ case, as you mentioned before the episode. And yeah, Dershowitz, he's known for defending, being involved in these like high profile cases, and oftentimes for the party that's being alleged to commit these crimes.
Yeah, he's always on the defense. It's not a good, and even I want to talk about this too, because when it relates to like you said, the Jeffrey Epstein's influence, like there's the Palm Beach state attorney at the time, like he responded to Alexander Acosta's like press conference when he said, "Yo, this was the best thing we could have given him," and what his response to that was, he's like, he accused the labor secretary of trying to rewrite history by blaming state authorities, right? And this is Barry Krescher, who was the Palm Beach state attorney at the time, and he says, "I can emphatically state that Mr. Acosta's recollection of this matter is completely wrong." He said. He said that the grand jury heard all the evidence available at the time and returned a single count of felony solicitation of prostitution, but Mr. Acosta later abandoned his own 53-page indictment, which we talked about, after secret negotiations with Mr. Epstein's lawyers. And here's a direct quote. He's like, "No matter how my office resolved the state charges, the U.S. Attorney's Office always had the ability to file its own federal charges. If Mr. Acosta was truly concerned with the state's case and felt he had to rescue the matter, he would have moved forward with the 53-page indictment that his own office drafted."
Yeah, there's that, and there's also the side of trauma that many of these victims went through after these abuses, and many of them describe their lives as being divided between before Epstein and after Epstein, and in their interviews you see just the trauma behind their eyes, and the scar that these abuses left in their lives, because for many, I was imagining myself, it's harder for a a guy, to imagine these sort of sexual abuses, because although they also happen to guys, but they mostly happen to women. And imagining myself or just people I know, at that time, as a 16 years old, like this, like the way it could affect your life and just throw you in just a horrible trajectory, and ask you to deal with it and just like combat it and try to heal it. It's hard. So there's also that side that we shouldn't forget about the victims who have been traumatized and their lives have been changed, uh, oftentimes for the worse because of these abuses. Yeah, and so I'd like to kind of move on a little bit to the new charges that were brought to Jeffrey Epstein in 2019. Um, yeah.
Oh wait, right before that, I was just gonna talk real quickly about the like pedophile. What's called? There's different names for it. People. Some people call it pedophile island.
Mm-hmm.
Other people call it different things. Jeffrey Epstein, I believe, called it the Little Saint James Island. That was the island in the Virgin Islands. This is basically where um a caretaker spoke a bit about it on the documentaries. Like this is basically where the worst of worst you know, Jeffrey Epstein's worst of worst desires. That's where he performed it at that island because he was basically secluded. It was his own island. He
Mm-hmm.
controlled everything, and yeah, he that's where you have guys like Bill Clinton were seen at the island. Prince Andrew, I believe, as well was seen as the island. Like there's a lot of people flew on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet. Whether they were actually at the island is also a point that's whether you can find out or not. It really depends on eyewitness testimony because you can't sometimes really see, unless you see the person at the island, you can't say positively that he was at the island. But you can
Mm-hmm.
see the the flight recorder and like the date the manifest, so you can see who's on the plane and who's not. And a lot of people, and it's not to say that everybody that was on his plane or everybody that went to his island actually participated in these
Mm-hmm.
activities, but that was there's how much that influence he had. Like he was bringing all these very wealthy, rich people to the island, and some people took part in these sexual act. And you saw a big one with Prince Andrew. Like he said, the woman's name is Virginia Roberts. He's like Virginia Roberts came out and said, "Yo, did Prince Andrew sexually abused me, right?" And Prince Andrew was like, "I don't remember meeting the woman, etc." And he said that after a picture of him the with Virginia Roberts, like
Mm-hmm.
they had a picture of him, his hand around Virginia Roberts' waist,
Mm-hmm.
Ghislaine Maxwell behind, and I don't know who took the picture. Maybe Jeffrey Epstein took the picture. But after that picture, he's like, the reporter asked him. The reporter asked Prince Andrew, there's a picture of you with her. Like, how do you explain that? He's like, I don't remember. Like, I don't know. It's like stuff like that. It's like, man, that whatever happened at the island, man, it was definitely the worst of the worst. And that caretaker in the documentary, he stopped working after
Mm-hmm.
somebody had told him, was like, "Yo, would you let your daughter come to this island or whatever?" And he's like, "Yeah, I wouldn't let my daughter." Like, 'cause he had two daughters. Like, I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
let my daughter 5 miles near Jeffrey Epstein. And the
Mm-hmm.
next day he quit. Right. So even he knew like how bad stuff were like that at the island, and you could imagine the victims that Jeff that came from the island. Like it's really no that it's really insane.
Yeah. Yeah, and just obviously there's the whole interview with Prince Andrew and just how you know deaf tone he was to, first of all, the allegations, um and just also his role, or like just his role in the whole affair, and it's obviously, we never know what's happening behind closed doors, and we can't talk about what about the other folks who were in Jeffrey's circle, but it's just bizarre to me that you would be around this sort of person, and flying his private plane and never notice anything bizarre. Like even and there you even have quotes from prominent people who acknowledge that um Jeffrey has that he likes younger women. Like you had uh basic Trump in New York Magazine in 2002 said, quote, "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side."
Yeah.
Like what the hell? Like
Literally.
how
Like it's not even a secret.
yeah,
It's
it's
not a
not even a
secret at this.
secret. People know that he likes younger women, but but if you're hanging out with him, like there's at least I'm not sure exactly what's the number. I think it's either 3 or 6 instances where Donald Trump is photographed with um Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And if you're hanging out around this guy, and given how just the scope of the allegations against him, in the Palm Beach uh case, there are at least 80 women who were identified. Just the web is just too large not to notice.
Mhm.
If you just like sometimes imagine you have a friend who who has who who is charged of potentially having abused 80 women. Like how the hell would you not know it if you're in his circle? So that's yeah, that's how you know that their wealth and power really influences the justice system, because if it's regular folks who are in these situations, they would rot in jail for sure.
Yeah, and we'll talk about this at the end, but like with Ghislaine Maxwell now being arrested, Donald Trump was asked like about Ghislaine Maxwell being arrested, and he's like, "I wish her the best."
Mhm.
How you how you gonna wish her the best?
Exactly.